All right. Well, we got a couple more parallels here with Genesis 39, but we'll probably make this a little bit longer video and just talk about what happens next. Because the life of Joseph has always been one of my favorites. And it's fascinating to read about, see how he handled temptations, tribulations, and just and especially in my life too. It's just well. This just shouldn't be happening. These parallels, this conflict in my life, these issues in my life, it just shouldn't happen. And while that's true, trouble comes, inconvenience comes to life, to everyone's lives. It doesn't matter, saved, lost, in the world, religious, non-religious, just, evil comes and you just have to deal with it. So, and it's interesting to see how Joseph dealt with it. He didn't become an atheist with having the way his parents or his family treated him. He looks like he actually drew closer to God in the way he handled his trials and tribulation. And it's pretty fascinating here. So we're just going to make this a little bit longer, and we'll touch on the parallels of Jesus and Joseph here as we go through. But let's start in Genesis 39, verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hand of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. So there you go. I mean, we don't get a lot of dialogue of Joseph and his personal fellowship with God, but we do see the repercussions, we do see the evidence that Joseph, he had a relationship with God. He kept up with it. He didn't go to a degree. He didn't say, well, God, things are going bad for me, so I'm just going to quit, and you're not being a good God to me, so I'm just going to quit serving you. We don't see that emotional bouncing back and forth with Joseph, but we see that even as a slave, now remember that, as a slave in a foreign land, and in a sense, I mean, being rather important of his own family, of his own people, but he's in the house of the master, and look, the Lord was with Joseph, and Joseph was a prosperous man. So even, it doesn't matter what our circumstances are being, but if our lives are in tune with Christ, we're walking with him daily, and we're seeking to have that forgiveness of our day-to-day sins, for that continued fellowship, and we're desiring to do the Lord's work, whatever that is, to be obedient to him, whatever he asks us to do in our daily lives, then that's where true prosperity comes from. You can really have, everything can be falling apart around you, literally in your life, but you're still spiritually prosperous because yes, this is bad right now, but God ultimately has my back, and he's going to work us through this. And as we go through these chapters, you'll see that this is a really rough patch for Joseph, and just in 39, it's going to get worse for Joseph, and then chapter 40. It's going to get a little bit worse. So this just happens in life. It doesn't mean you throw up your hands as some people would do and say, well, if that's the way God's going to treat me, then there must not be a God. Bad stuff happens. We have to get through it. I don't like it when inconvenience comes to me, and I don't usually handle it the best. Wouldn't say I handle it as well as Joseph does, and I need to do better. So, but enough about me. Verse 3. And his master, which is Potiphar, saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. And looking at that prosper, everything he did prosper. I was thinking about, we don't have a specific verse for this, but just think about the miracles of Jesus. And consider, everybody he came in contact with, Jesus, on earth, whether it was somebody who was blind, put his hands in their eyes, your sight be restored, or you can't walk, well, with you, because of your faith, I rise thee up and now you walk. or just bringing people to health, or just curing people of leprosy. Everybody he touched, either physically or figuratively, everybody Jesus touched prospered. They were much better. I mean, there was people brought back. There was at least 2 people that were brought back to life because of Jesus. So I think that would be a parallel. Everything in a sense that Joseph touched for Potiphar prospered. And in essence, everything that Jesus touched in his day physically on the earth prospered. And even drawing it a little bit deeper, if you're willing to let Jesus have control of your life, you're just like, hey, hands off the wheel. They got that song, Jesus Take the Wheel. And, it's kind of a fun thought, but it is true. If you let Jesus have control of your life, you're definitely going to prosper spiritually. I'm not talking about riches and you'll have more wealth than everybody else. No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that you'll have more purpose for life. You'll have a better understanding of how to get through life and make it actually worth living, instead of just being an endless rat race. There's some eternal purpose to our lives, and it's even better with Jesus, leading the course for us, if that makes sense. Verse 4, and Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. Joseph served a master. And I mean, that's the thing on earth. I mean, people say, well, I don't like God because he's got too many rules. You're going to serve somebody. I mean, there's lots of songs about that. You're going to serve somebody. And Jesus mentioned that too. You can't serve God and mammon. You're going to serve one or the other. So if you don't serve Jesus, then if you don't serve God, who are you going to serve? Well, I'm just going to do what I want. Well, you just made yourself a God. So all of us in the earth, God designed us that way. Back to Romans chapter 1, there's in man a desire to worship, to pay homage to worship religiously to a degree. So if you say, no, I don't want any of that God stuff, you're worshiping somebody. You can't just discount, no, it's inside you. You're going to worship somebody, whether it's yourself or whether it's an idea or the atheist group. You go to the atheist meetings. It's just another sense of worship. It's just another special day that you put aside to honor and reverence what's dear to you. So you're going to serve somebody. Joseph has decided to serve the Lord, and in serving the Lord, he also serves his earthly master, Potiphar, and God blesses him for the obedience. And that, I know in today's society, that just blows the mind. It's like, oh, how does that work? It works. It works. And this is approximately, 1724 BC, approximately. So, and if I will yield myself more to the Lord, if I'll be more obedient to the Lord, then, what I do for him will have eternal merit for sure. And lay not up for yourselves like treasures on earth, but lay for yourselves up treasure in heaven, as a paraphrase there. So we've rambled enough. We've only got through 4 verses. At 8 minutes here, we're going to cut this short, and we're going to have to make a part 2 of Genesis 39. Sorry about that. Started rambling.